just don't get it. You can't go under him. You can't go behind him. If you're in front of him, his reach is too long. Jesus Christ. Welcome back to Amygdala. She's back in the Defiled dungeon. I don't know why I call her a she, but that's how I see it. Anyway, a lot of people have done videos for this fight already because so many people have a hard time with it. I had a hard time with her the first time you fight her during the regular campaign. Not even on the Defiled dungeon where you're at half health. And my guide for that is going to be pretty much the same as this fight, with one big difference. I'm doing this fight post-patch, and a lot of the guides out there were apparently done pre-patch, so you cannot follow them. It just doesn't work. I tried and thought I was doing something wrong until I found out that this fight specifically was patched, and you can't do a lot of the cheese that was previously possible. But we'll get to that a little bit later. Let's go ahead and focus on the first two stages of this fight. The first stage, there's no change in it from the first time you fight her, and there's no change from the patch. You're going to want to stay just out of arm's reach, get her to put her head down with one of her attacks, rush in and get a hit on it. You can hit her arms. I would often miss hitting her arms. Plus, hitting her head does a little bit more damage anyway. So, I would suggest doing that. It does mean you have to run a little farther forward, put yourself a little closer. And her back arms there, if you're hitting her head, do sometimes do a couple quick jabs. If they do hit, and probably they won't if you start backing up immediately after you're hit, they're not going to kill you. It's one of her few non-one-hit kills in this fight. It's not that big a deal. I wouldn't worry about it, so go ahead and go for the head for the little bit of extra damage. If you get in there quickly enough, you can get a charged R2 in and do a whole lot more damage. It's about 3 times the damage if you do it charged. And for most of the first part of this, it's rinse and repeat. After you get enough hits on her head, you can go in for a visceral. And probably that's going to end up starting phase 2. There she goes, she hulks out. It's stage 2. She's going to do a whole lot more laser attacks during this stage. She's probably going to do few to no leap attacks. So that can be good or bad for you. During the first stage, she will do some leap attacks. And just, you can either dodge away from her and try to get one headshot in, and dodge toward her, which is pretty safe, but then you'll get a little confused under the legs. Do not lock on immediately after her leap. Just get out of there. I'd suggest just running away. It's going to make this fight last maybe 30 seconds longer, but it's safer. You can see the orbs, little power orbs that she has around her fists during her slams. That can make this fight easier or harder, depending. It makes it easier to see when your chance to rush up is going to be. However, if you rush up slightly too early, obviously if you rush up before the hands come down, you're just going to get killed. But even after the hands come down, the power ball continues to stay there for 1 second, and if you go run into it, then you'll get knocked down and maybe get comboed after that. But I think overall it's helpful as long as you just wait that 1 extra second. But of course, waiting that 1 extra second and then getting your hit in does allow her to almost get a swipe in, usually. So you're going to want to back up pretty quickly after your hit. Now, this particular combo right here, which you see a bunch in her first stage and sometimes in her second stage, is a really good one to go ahead and stay fairly close and wait for the hands to come down, and then go in there and get a charged R2. You see her hands hit really close into her head. She doesn't reach out very far. So you can stand fairly close so you don't have to spend so much time running forward for that. And then you'll almost always have time for a charged R2, which is going to do some massive damage. Other than that, again, it is rinse and repeat, basically until her head comes down again. Usually her head ends up coming down for another visceral right before she enters stage 3, and that's usually what makes her enter stage 3. I don't know if they did that on purpose, but it seems to be pretty nice. I'm not going to complain. You get a visceral, and you know that after that she's probably entering the next stage. There it is. There's the second one. And while we're speaking about viscerals real quick, in her third stage, there are some times that it looks like you can visceral her. Do not attempt it. You can't. At least I don't think it's possible. It looks like she's going down for it, but you don't hear that visceral noise, and you cannot get one. That seems like it's just created by them as a little trap. Good job from software. Now, that we're in stage 3, I have to talk about what has changed post-patch. Now, it's a pretty big difference. If you look at my previous Amygdala guide or most other guides that are around, the big difference is that you'll see that I'm not under or behind her, as I used to be, as other people used to be during this fight. It's no longer safe, especially in Defiled. If you're in the campaign, being under her or behind still might be viable, but in Defiled it absolutely is not. You used to be able to stay behind her and she would actually jump forward every time, so you could stay behind her very easily and slowly get that tail damage in until she was gone, until the fight was over. It took a while, it took patience, but there was really no problem there. You used to also be able to just stay under her, but that's mostly for the main campaign, not for Defiled, because staying directly under her, you're gonna get hit. Not a lot. She's not going to be able to combo you to death. However, in Defiled, with your health being halved and her damage being so high, one of her stomps, or if she does manage to jump and actually land on you with a foot or with one of the elbows or arms or whatnot, then it's going to kill you. So for the first time ever, a lot of people are going to have to fight her in the front during stage 3. It's intimidating. She's got different attacks that a lot of people probably haven't seen because they were busy under her the entire time. Her reach is... I don't think it's quite doubled, but it nearly is. But it's not that bad. Not as bad as I think a lot of people expected. Now, stage 3, pre-patch, post-patch, didn't matter. It's always been kind of a long stage, even though her health is, at that point, only at like 30%. But now it's even longer. You might have noticed that I actually had her down into stage 3 about 40% into this fight. She was already all the way down. So the next 60% of this fight is just stage 3. Because you have to be careful. And by the way, here's the point that is not a visceral. Don't do it. But anyway, back to how long this last stage is. It just takes a long time. And it took even longer for me because I kept missing on all of these arm shots. I don't think it's worthwhile to go for the head in this stage. I'd say just go for arm shots. Just try to not be like me and actually hit them every time you have an opportunity. But if you want to go ahead and skip ahead at this point, you can, because this is basically what's going to happen for the next 5 minutes or so. Strafing to the left, trying to keep distance, and when you see this, go ahead and throw one dodge in there just in case to the left. And other than that, it's not going to be that bad. Just continue what you've been doing with a lot of it. When you see the power arms come down, you're going to want to go in for a hit. If she is doing her vomit crap, just strafe around that too, so that if you do have an opportunity to hit, you don't have to worry about running into that. Laser attacks, not a problem. This, especially since her reach is so high, when she does her leap attack in this stage, I'd say keep going to the left, keep going around the stage. And the biggest part of this last stage is patience. Because like I said, it's going to take, for me, it took about 60% of this fight was just this last part. Oh, it took me forever. You know, and I'd already fought her so many times, I really just wanted her to die. But there were some times where, you know, I had to catch myself and remind myself, don't get greedy, don't mess this up. You missed, don't go for a second one, just back off. A few other times where I thought, oh, you know, I might be able to get a hit in here. You know, if I just get, you know, maybe 3 hits in on the arms or head, she might be dead, but just don't get greedy. Those big arm swipes you just saw there, man, they've got range on them. But they will not kill you in one hit, so they're not a huge problem. And you have lots of time to heal safely during this fight. I don't think I've mentioned any of the laser attacks. They are a one-hit kill in the Defiled fight, but just like usual, you just strafe dodge them. If you want to do 1 or 2 dodges to the left, that's going to make it even safer. And I don't know if you noticed that, but I kept missing quite a few times when I tried to hit her hand that's holding her arm. I think you want to go for elbow. You do not want to go for her hand, and you do not want to try to hit the arm that's already been ripped off, of course. Don't think that's going to do any damage there. You see, this is where I'm really talking about patience. And that was just a mistake. I tried to do a running R2 and instead did a regular R2. But at this point, I'm pretty sure I only need 1 hit or 2. And yet this fight continues on for another minute. I've had too many fights end where I got greedy in the end. I just started, you know, thinking I just need this one more hit. If I can just get it in, and surely I can get it into 1 hit before I'm dead. And I could not. And this one had taken me so many times, I did not want to screw this up. Although I did screw that up. Just right there. Again. For some reason I had a tough time getting off that running R2 real often. If I had been able to get it off every time, if I had been able to hit her arms or head during the first few stages every time, especially in this last stage, every opportunity that I had, the fight would have been cut down by a couple minutes or so, I'd assume. But it did get done. Thank God. Good luck. Follow the guide and you can do it.